What I'd like to see is the Cabinet locking itself in a room tonight and coming up with a plan to respond to what was the worst election result for the Labour Party that I can remember, and I've been in public life since 2001. We lost very badly in Wales. The leader lost her seat. We lost very badly in Scotland. Several very good candidates didn't win. We lost very badly in London, including the local leaders of my own borough and that of the leader of the Labour Party. This is what I would describe as an electoral emergency, and sadly the Cabinet have not come out strongly to lead us and to tell us what's coming next. And so what I would really like to see is not a leadership election, but for them to come together and appoint somebody amongst them who can lead us and give us a vision of how we're going to defeat Nigel Farage and the right wing in the coming general election, which could be as soon as 2.5 years away.
And do you really believe that Labour MPs will rally behind one candidate unopposed with no election?
I'm hoping that that won't be necessary. I'm hoping that through this intervention that I'm making, the Prime Minister and the team, the Cabinet team, who are our leaders, will come forward with a vision of how we can stop losing elections, which is what we did very, very badly last Thursday, and come out and talk about what it is we will do differently to communicate the fantastic things we are doing for working families, and also to give the country a sense that change is possible.
And who has promised you support?
To date, I have not yet emailed my colleagues, but I have said that if the Cabinet do not get their act together and get the seriousness of the moment that we find ourselves in electorally, that on Monday morning I will email every single one of my colleagues and ask for up to 80 names. I'm allowed to count myself in that, I'm 81. And that will provide, I believe, according to the rules, it will trigger a leadership election.
And are you doing this now because you want to prevent Andy Burnham getting the chance?
Not at all, not at all. I think Andy should be part of the leadership team, and I would expect that any leader will want to appoint Andy perhaps to the House of Lords, because you can be a minister in the House of Lords, and he would make a fantastic contribution.
Who would you like to be the next Labour leader?
That is a question for the Cabinet to begin with, to see whether they can put someone forward who they can all get behind. Then we wouldn't need a leadership election. And then the next step is we will put forward, people will put themselves forward. And I know that if I get the names requisite to stand myself, that will spark other leadership contenders. And then we will end up with somebody emerging. We have a lot of talented people, not just in the Cabinet, but newly elected members of Parliament who came in the 2024 election. There are some excellent people, but they do need to have the courage to stand up and say why they should be the next leader to take us forward into the most decisive general election that we've known.
And what has party leadership said to you?
Party leadership have asked me, obviously, not to do this, that everything's in hand, but I'm not convinced. I think we need to have a strong statement from the Prime Minister, either that he feels he's not the person to take us forward, or he is, and he's fighting for it, and he's fighting for us. That's what we need to know, and I think that's what voters want to hear. After their verdict, which they gave us as Labour representatives on Thursday, we need a much stronger response from the government.
And can you list what Starmer has done wrong?
I feel most of the problems are around the lack of communication, but also the lack of urgency. We're hurting. Many of our really good candidates at local level and basically in Scotland, Wales and other places were very badly let down. We knew it was going to be bad, but not as apocalyptic as it was. And so it does demand more of an energised response from the Prime Minister and telling us how it's going to be different.
And what policies should a new leader pursue?
We want more of an emphasis on cost of living, but genuine change, not just talking about it. We also need to have more of an emphasis on how we're going to manage in the winter months as things come forward with the terrible bills that we're all going to get. But we also need to understand how our representatives in Parliament, as Labour MPs and as the leadership of the country, are going to fight every day to make people's lives better. So many people are struggling with housing costs, with their job, with mental health problems, with a number of other things. And at the moment, our message does not seem to be hitting home. And that's why we had such a terrible election result. And I haven't heard what we're going to do differently or how that's going to be different. And that's why I want to try and shake up the party so that they can respond to what was an awful election result on Thursday.
And what will you be doing tomorrow and Monday going forward?
So I'm doing some more challenging the current way that we're approaching this crisis, and I hope that this will bring forward either a bit more fight from the current leader or some leadership hopefuls who will come forward and say, we've been challenged and this is our plan to bring forward a change and bring forward a change in the country and bring forward renewed respect for our program for changing this country for the best.
And Starmer is about to announce closer ties with the EU. Is that enough?
Look, the EU is crucial in terms of what is happening around the trade picture. 40% of our small businesses have said that they've lost trade with the EU. Our economy is 4% smaller than it was before. So getting closer to Europe is the correct thing to do, mainly for the economics, mainly so that we can feel more prosperous. We've been going backwards since Brexit, and I think it's really important that we're pragmatic, that we also do much more with Europe around security, and that we speed that up. It's felt as though it was really good to begin with, and everything was going quite well. And then for the last few months, it's felt as though we've been experiencing a sort of drift. And that's not what people are telling me. They're telling me we're desperate. We need change. And yet, drift is the response that we're getting.
And what is your response to Reform's performance in the local elections?
What I learned from the results in the local elections was that Reform is now everywhere. And the only way of beating Reform is for the Labour Party to get itself organised, better funded. We need to do more fundraising because Nigel Farage clearly has people who will just give him £5 million. We need to understand where that money came from. We need to understand how they operate. And also we need to look at their methods of communication because they clearly were able to communicate with working people, which is a traditional role of the Labour Party. And so we also need to match that expectation that people want to hear more from us and they want to trust us that we will get things right for them.
And if the response that you want does not happen on Monday, what are you going to do?
Well, if I can get those 80 names, and if there are enough people in the Labour Party within Parliament, what we call the Parliamentary Labour Party, who feel the same as me, I will get those names. And then I will see how I take it forward from there.